Hi, my name is Benjamin Gerald. This presentation will cover significant updates to FDM 211 for the 2023 FDM. A summary of major changes such as the Turnpike Design Handbook migration, adoption of the 2018 AASHTO Green Book, and the sunsetting of FDM Part 3 are covered in the 2023 FDM overview and TDH migration webinars. These are separate webinars that you can find on the same website that you found this webinar. And many of the changes that we'll cover in this presentation are related more to the Turnpike Design Handbook migration into the FDM than the others. And the others, especially the AASHTO Green Book changes, weren't significant in this chapter, so I didn't cover those. The major changes to this chapter affect these sections. As you can see, a lot of changes have been made this year. In the first section of FDM 211, a sentence was added to require turnpike projects to be designed to interstate criteria unless specific criteria for turnpike projects are provided. Many of the changes associated with the Turnpike Design Handbook migration will affect all limited access facility projects, but a few requirements are specific to turnpike projects only. Also, a new paragraph was added to allow existing features designed to metric design criteria to remain for reconstruction and resurfacing projects without a design exception or variation. And this is more of a clarification, and it's not part of the Turnpike Design Handbook migration effort, but it was added as a result of comments and concerns from the districts. This new sentence in FDM 211.1.1 is a result of the TDH migration. Documentation is now required for elements on interstate resurfacing projects that meet the AASHTO interstate standards in effect at the time of construction, but do not meet current requirements. This documentation is not intended to be a design variation or exception, but it is provided to show what the original criteria was at the time of construction versus the existing elements, which would explain why a design variation or exception is not needed. Two changes were made to FDM 211.2.2. The first change to this section was for shoulder cross-slope transitions. Transition rate and minimum length of transition requirements were added for shoulder cross-slope transitions at bridge approaches. The intent of this revision was to standardize the shoulder cross-slope transitions. The second change to this section was for a new 4-lane section in Figure 211.2.1. It was a result of the TDH migration. This new standard pavement cross-slope section can be used for any limited access facility. The Turnpike typically uses this 4-lane section for roadways with design speeds of 70 miles per hour to be more compatible with future widening and to mitigate hydroplaning risk. New language and a table were added to the hydroplaning risk analysis section to provide requirements for when hydroplaning analysis is to be submitted. Coordination with the district drainage engineer was previously required to determine if hydroplaning analysis was necessary. The FDM was silent on what triggered an evaluation and when it was to be submitted. These revisions better define when hydroplaning needs to be submitted and what the evaluation should include. Hydroplaning analysis is required for projects when additional contributing pavement is added to the standard pavement cross-slope sections in Figure 211.2.1, for superelevated sections as shown in Table 211.2.4, and For ungrooved bridge decks that exceed previously mentioned requirements, where a risk is identified, provide a risk evaluation in a report format that includes identification and benefit cost analysis of mitigating strategies. Submit the preliminary analysis with the 15% line and grade or draft typical section package. And finally, provide a final recommendation in conjunction with the final typical section package. The notes in Table 211.4.1 were revised. Note 1 was added for turnpike projects with 3 lanes or more in one direction. For these turnpike projects, a 12-foot inside and outside paved shoulder is required adjacent to travel lanes with high volume ADT or greater than 10% trucks. The note was added to be consistent with turnpike paved shoulder requirements that had been part of the TDH. The second note was modified to clarify that the 12-foot outside paved shoulder should be considered for all other LA facilities with high volume ADT or greater than 10% trucks. A new subsection was added to the shoulder cross slope section as part of the TDH migration. This new subsection allows the use of shoulder rocking for maintaining a minimum longitudinal gutter grade to achieve positive drainage on limited access facilities. When shoulder rocking is applied adjacent to a barrier wall, there are some minimum height and offset requirements for design that were included here in this section. And options for meeting minimum spread criteria for outside shoulder rocking are also included in this section. And the plan requirements for shoulder rocking are now included in FDM 915. Minimum vertical profile grades now apply to new construction and significantly modified profiles for limited access facilities. The intent of this new criteria is to limit the need for shoulder rocking on future widening and resurfacing projects. This new change is a result of drainage challenges encountered in urban areas and also because of the TDH migration. A few sentences have been added to the ramp terminal section associated with preferred ramp type. The parallel ramp type terminal is the preferred ramp type. The use of the parallel ramp terminal provides a smoother transition on limited access facilities by providing acceleration and deceleration lanes. This is especially crucial on high volume roadways because it also adds additional queue storage for ramps avoiding a spillback into the limited access facilities. With this being said, the use of the taper type ramp terminals is not prohibited, but approval by the district design engineer is now required. Existing taper type ramps that are not being altered by construction may remain in place. Access opening requirements for continuous stretches of guardrail or barrier wall have been added to the maintenance access section. The intent of this change is to limit the off-road distance maintenance vehicles and crews need to drive to get to things like lighting, ITS poles, and cameras. The maximum length of continuous guardrail or barrier wall is now 2,500 feet between end terminals. The access location points must be coordinated with the district maintenance engineer and the district ITS design engineer to ensure the needs of maintenance and operations are met. The preferred typical detail for roadside guardrail access openings can be found in the standard plan's instructions for Index 536-001. A new section for roadway and bridge approach slab evaluation has been added to this chapter. A qualitative evaluation of approach slabs is required to ensure a smooth transition to bridges on resurfacing and capacity improvement projects. When deficiencies are identified, a summary of potential underlying causes must be made, and a recommendation for correcting the deficiencies must be provided. This is only required for existing bridges and approach slabs that are not scheduled for a complete reconstruction. Thank you for listening to this webinar, and please let us know if you have any questions.